I go to the bathroom first?
Of course you may.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to my review for the 1998 classic comedy film Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. The film is directed by Frank Oz and it stars Steve Martin, Michael Caine and Glenn Headley. Now the film follows two con men. We have Freddie, played by Steve Martin, and we have Lawrence, played by Michael Caine. Now, Michael Caine's character, Lawrence Jameson, is working in the south of France. He is a very distinguished guy, but he is basically a con artist. He preys on tourists that come through the season, pretends to be royalty who needs money in order to try and win back his country. Through his charm and charisma, he basically manages to embezzle a lot of money on a yearly basis and lives a very, very comfortable life. That is until Steve Martin's Freddie comes along, Freddie Benson, who Michael Caine thinks is a US con artist known as the Jackal. Freddie turns up in town. He's small time compared to Lawrence Jameson, but he sees him as a risk. So they immediately butt heads. He tries to take him under his wing to help him, but they go their separate ways and essentially come up with a bet. They choose a woman. Whoever embezzles this particular amount of money from her first stays. The other one has to leave. However, what they don't realise is the person that they've decided to scam, Janet, played by Glenn Headley, might just be a little bit smarter than they first gave her credit for. Right, what are my thoughts on Dirty Rotten Scoundrels? Well, I think this is an absolute classic comedy from the 80s. Two brilliant actors, at their absolute peaks here. Steve Martin, a comedy megastar, really, just nails his part here as this sleazy, but charming and impossible not to like character, Freddie. And Michael Caine is just fantastic as this really distinguished and, con artist who just wants Freddie out of the way. They've got brilliant chemistry together. They make a really, really cool partnership in the film. And it just works so well. Apparently, I think it is based on a film from the 60s that had David Niven in it. And Michael Caine based his look on David Niven, who had died a few years previously. But it's just very, very funny, this film. But not in a silly slapstick way, if you like. I mean, it is slapstick at times, this. Of course it is. It's got Steve Martin, of course. You absolutely expect that. But it's just so delightfully made. I mean, Frank Oz is just brilliant at this sort of thing. Michael Caine has gone on record as saying he thinks this is the funniest film he ever made. The whole sequence with Rupert, his disabled brother, is just comedy gold. Steve Martin is just, I don't think he's ever been funnier in those sequences. Absolutely hilarious. And the whole scene where he's pretending to be a cripple and Michael Caine is whacking him on the shins with the stick to try and see if there's any feeling there. It's just, honestly, first time I saw that, there were tears rolling down my face. It was that funny. It's just so wonderfully made, this, with, great performers in the lead roles here. Steve Martin and Michael Caine, who are doing their jobs effortlessly here. The director, Frank Oz, tempted Michael Caine to doing this film by, saying, well, you're going to be spending 3 months in the south of France in a mansion sort of thing. And Michael Caine, I mean, he kind of thought, well, you've sold me, mate, I'm coming. Interestingly, Eddie Murphy turned down the role that Steve Martin took for Freddie, and they would go on to work together about 10 years later. Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy. So, I mean, it's so wonderfully made. It's so easy to watch this, and it's just so fun. I think the only thing really that I would probably say I'm not keen on with this film is the music. It's a little bit too, I don't know what the right word is really, slapstick really for the film. It doesn't seem to fit the film most of the time. The music. I mean, it doesn't spoil it or anything, but it just kind of feels a little bit off. But the whole con that is on display here is, it's really well done. The idea that they're gonna embezzle $50,000 from this lady from America, Janet, and whoever gets that money first can stay, and the other one has to leave. But they just keep digging the hole deeper for each other, sort of thing. Steve Martin pretends to be a crippled army veteran who can only walk with a certain psychiatrist from Germany who can give him what he needs. And guess who tries to be that psychiatrist? But yes, of course, Michael Caine, which is why he ends up whacking him on his shins with sticks. So, I mean, there's loads of ad-libbing in this as well. Franco's really let them both ad-lib as much as they wanted for the most part. The scene in the jail cell with Steve Martin when he's trying to remember Michael Caine's name because he'd just met him the once on the train. That was all ad-libbed. Franco's just let him go for it, all ad-libbed, until he felt like he'd taken it as far as he could take it, and then he kind of tapped Anton Rogers, who played like the police chief, to kind of interrupt and stop the ad-libbing. But that scene flows so brilliantly, and that's because of the ad-libbing. And Michael Caine and Steve Martin, riffed off each other throughout the majority of the film in regards to ad-libbing. I mean, I think Michael Caine does so brilliantly here. I mean, he's such a fantastic actor anyway, but when you think of Michael Caine, you don't think of comedy performances, but that's the strength of who he is, the kind of actor that he is, that he can go into a movie like this with someone like Steve Martin, who, especially at this time in his career, well, he's never really not been a comedy genius, has he, Steve Martin? But at this point in his career, and he's quite happy to kind of go toe-to-toe with Steve Martin, and they both come out on top in this film. You don't come away and think, well, Steve Martin was better than Michael Caine then. No, they were both brilliant in this film. Both in their own ways, yes. Steve Martin in his classic Steve Martin-ness, I suppose, some of the eccentricities that he does in his physical comedies completely on display here. But they contrast each other so brilliantly in this film, and it's just a fantastic film. One of my favourites from the 80s, and if you've never seen it, I strongly recommend it, guys. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's my thoughts on the classic comedy Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I hope you enjoyed the review. I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.